Kyousuke Kousaka is a fairly ordinary high school student with a little sister with whom he doesn't have a very affectionate relationship with, the two almost hating each other. Kirino Kousaka, Kyousuke's younger sister, is pretty much the perfect girl, being a top student, athlete, and magazine model. However, Kirino hides a secret that'll cause her brother to change his view of her. Coming home from school one day, Kyousuke pours his usual juice while Kirino is on the phone. Suddenly, they collide, causing various things to fall out of Kirino's bag. Although Kyousuke tries to help her, she rejects his help. However, when Kirino leaves, Kyousuke finds a DVD under the table and realizes it's a video game. But upon inspecting, Kyousuke realizes that it's not just a common video game, but an eroge, an erotic video game with younger sister-themed tropes. Surprised, Kyousuke decides to hide the DVD until he finds out who it belongs to. After investigating, he realizes that the DVD must have fallen from Kirino's bag, who denies it's hers. Later that night, Kirino slaps Kasuga, waking him up to show him her somewhat sickly collection of anime figurines from the DVD. After all, it seems that Kyousuke doesn't find it so weird and accepts his sister's hobby. Kirino tells Kyousuke not to tell anyone about this hobby, and asks him to share his hobby with her since no one in her right mind would do something like that. Kyousuke accepts since he thought it was quite fun to share with his sister, even if it was such a strange thing. Although Kyousuke started quite excited, even playing games about anime, he eventually became bored with the whole ideal, so Kyousuke tells Kirino to find friends who also share her same taste. As otakus aren't usually liked in society, Kirino didn't want to reveal her otaku side and tarnish her perfect image. However, Kyousuke encourages her to join an online group of otaku girls who hold meetups so that she will have more friends who share her hobbies. After a while, the online group holds its first meeting, and Kirino, who doesn't want to go alone, tells Kyousuke to go with her. However, Kirino asks him not to be near her since everybody could see him as a perverted stalker. Already at the meeting, Kirino doesn't socialize much out of embarrassment, and she leaves disappointed. But on her way out, Saori Makishima, leader of the group, and her friend Ruri Gokou invite Kirino to eat together. After meeting the girls, Kirino starts talking on the phone with Ruri every day, recommending games and anime to watch together. On his side, Kyousuke was with his childhood friend Manami Tamura, who had a crush on him. However, the oblivious Kyousuke doesn't realize Manami's feelings, and although she tries to seduce him, he doesn't fall for her games. Arriving at his house, Kyousuke's father scolds Kirino so badly after discovering her hobby that Kirino runs out of the house. Kyousuke goes after her and promises that he'll help her fix the situation. To solve the problem, Kyousuke talks to his father about his sister's hobby and tries in vain to convince him that it is normal. In the end, Kyousuke sacrificed by saying that the DVD was his and that Kirino knew the anime because of him. Though the foolish Kyousuke saved his sister, he also took a tremendous punch from his father. After the conflicts calm down, Kyousuke's father tries to understand his children's hobbies and halfway accepts them. Kyousuke is playing one of his sister's games when Saori calls him and tells him that she sent some things to his sister. At that moment, a package arrives for Kyousuke, but it seems to be for his sister since the box says it contains beauty products. Kirino takes the box from her brother and leaves to her room with her friends. Kyousuke gets curious and calls Saori to ask what she sent Kirino. Saori tells him she sent her products from the anime that she liked. Kyousuke rushes to Kirino's room to prevent her from opening the box in front of her friends. Although Kyousuke tries to help her, Kirino refuses and struggles through the house for her pack. So both brother and sister end up in a compromising position, where Kyousuke accidentally touches a private part of his sister's body. To their bad luck, Kirino's friends saw the whole scene. The next day, Kirino and Kyousuke went to a manga event with Saori and Ruri. While they're leaving, Kirino meets Ayase Aragaki, one of her best friends, who asks Kirino what she's doing there. Kirino evades her and asks her brother to help her out of the situation. Kyousuke tells Ayase they have to go, but she wants to know what they're hiding. So Ayase breaks Kirino's bag by accident and manages to see her friend's manga. Ayase tells her she won't talk to her and won't be her friend anymore. And well, who could blame her? After a few days, Kirino was still sad because her friend rejected her and called her a pervert. Because of this, Kyousuke tries to cheer her up, but they end up in a fight, and Kirino tells him that he has to solve her problem with Ayase. Not standing a chance against his sister, Kyousuke agrees to talk to Ayase and fix the problem. Kyousuke meets Ayase and explains why having these hobbies isn't wrong since it's just for fun. Ayase rejects this explanation and even blames poor Kyousuke for influencing Kirino. So both continue arguing until Kirino appears and tells her the truth. However, Ayase still can't accept her because her hobbies are obscene. Kyousuke comes up with a great idea of explaining how this type of anime helped his relationship with his sister, sounding even more perverted. In the end, it somehow works, and Ayase feels sorry for Kirino because she thinks Kyousuke is a pervert who has a crush on his little sister. Some days pass and Halloween approaches. Manami invites Kyousuke to her house to hang out. Upon arrival, Manami's relatives are happy because Kyousuke is finally visiting them after so long. Since Manami's family was decorating for Halloween, Kyousuke decided to stay and help. Since it was getting late, Manami offered Kyousuke to stay the night so he could rest. He accepted, and they both had dinner together. After eating, Manami tells Kyousuke to take a bath, but he tells her that she should go first. Then, Manami, in an attempt to make Kyousuke nervous, jokes that they should take a bath together. Kyousuke tells her that they indeed should, but in the end, it's just a joke, and Manami becomes frustrated at how oblivious Kyousuke is. At bedtime, Manami's family somehow goes out of their way to help Manami make them sleep in the same bed. Once they are settled, they both talk about things about their childhood, and he even tells her that next time he'll invite her to his house. Meanwhile, Kirino is upset that her brother isn't home with her. Kyousuke finds himself home, seemingly alone when he arrives home from high school one day, but he finds Ruri sitting in the living room since Kirino had invited her. Turns out that this was the only day of the week where they could watch anime in the living room because neither of their parents was there. Kyousuke realizes Kirino isn't in the room with Ruri because they fought over creative differences between anime novels they had written. Kyousuke decides to find Kirino to make peace with Ruri. However, before apologizing, both discuss why they're angry with each other, and in the end, they keep fighting. The next day, Kyousuke is about to leave for school when Kirino stops him to tell him that she's found some explicit stuff on his laptop. Kyousuke accepts his mistake and tells his sister that it won't happen again. However, he has to compensate her by taking her shopping. While shopping, Kyousuke finds out that the novel Kirino was writing turned out to be very famous, but she was struggling to continue the story. So more than shopping, Kirino needed a creative outlet to flow her ideas. Her pretty spicy book was about brother-sister relationships, and Kirino forced Kyousuke to roleplay with her to get ideas. After many situations, where they even ended up in a hotel, everything turns out well, and Kirino manages to finish her novel. Kirino's novel becomes profitable, and she gets an offer to bring it to television as an anime. So they decide to call Kirino to a meeting to present ideas on how they'll carry out the big project. Since Kirino felt a bit nervous, she told Saori and Ruri to accompany her as support. However, Ruri kept making fun of the novel and saying it didn't have much potential. Arriving at the meeting, Kirino, in her eagerness to be a teenage otaku, proposes a bunch of kinky ideas to the producers. The producers rejected them all, and Kirino felt a little bad when she saw how they were cutting her ideas and even considering changing the gender of the protagonist. When they got home, Kirino falls unconscious into her brother's arms because of her disappointment. Seeing how bad Kirino felt, Kyousuke, who doesn't seem to learn from his experiences, decides to go on his sister's behalf to a second meeting. He asks the producers not to reject his sister's idea. Although they denied it at first, after a speech from Ruri and more humiliation from Kyousuke, they end up agreeing to all of Kirino's ideas. One day, when he gets home, Kyousuke finds Kirino anxious because she's expecting a package. When it's finally delivered, Kyousuke realizes that it's one of those games that his sister likes so much. Kyousuke doesn't pay much attention to her and goes to his room. However, the situation starts to get awkward when Kirino starts to play without holding back her perverted side at all. The girl starts playing as if no one else is home, which makes her brother very uncomfortable. Kyousuke hears his sister making weird noises from her room, and she sounds a little too excited about the situation. Kyousuke finally decides to do something for himself and tells his sister to shut up. But Kirino ignores him and simply accuses him of being a pervert to continue playing quietly. Since Kirino has been chatting a lot with Ayase about anime lately, Ayase wants to give her friend something as a gift. They had argued a few days before, and Ayase thinks about making amends. She decides to ask Kyousuke for help, and he goes with Saori and Ruri to look for a suitable gift. During their search, the girls found some presents that Kyousuke rejected. He thought they were indecent, and he was sure Ayase would beat the crap out of him if he suggested them. After searching for hours, they managed to get the perfect gift for Kirino. But they had to win a cosplay contest to earn it. The idea was for Ayase to dress up as an anime character, but after seeing the revealing outfit that Kyousuke suggested, Ayase gave him a well-deserved punch. Since Ayase doesn't want to cosplay, she plans to have one of the other girls do it. Ayase tricks another friend, Kanako Kurisu, who thinks she'll be in a modeling contest. Ayase, like any good friend, manages to trick her into ending up cosplaying an anime character at an otaku convention. Since Kanako looks a lot like the main character, she wins with a huge advantage. Thanks to this, Ayase is able to give the gift to Kirino, and everything ends up well, except for Kanako, who had to stay in disguise because Ayase discarded her normal clothes. Kyousuke is at the supermarket one day when he runs into Manami, who he invites to his house to hang out. Manami offers to cook for him since his parents are away. Kyousuke decides to take advantage of his friend's offer and rushes home. When they both arrive, Kirino has a rather jealous attitude towards her brother, treating Kyousuke and Manami rudely. In an attempt to annoy her, Kirino tells Manami to clean the house before cooking, and Manami naively does. Once she finishes cleaning, she makes lunch, and Kirino thanks her with a suddenly sweet attitude. However, the whole act was a front because Kirino left a game and some obscene magazines in Kasaga's room. When they both enter, Manami finds these things that Kirino left behind, and Kyousuke is embarrassed. But to his surprise, Manami doesn't seem to be affected by it. Saori, Ruri, Kyousuke, and Kirino organize a small gathering to celebrate Kirino's book adapted into an anime. All the girls dress up as maids for the occasion and have a good time as a group. Kirino apologizes to her brother for what she did to Manami, and gives him an obscene game. Kyousuke, instead of finding it strange that his sister plays obscene games with him, thanks her, and they make peace. This anime has 2 endings, so stay tuned till the end to let us know in the comments which ending you think is better. In the morning, Kyousuke notices a different attitude from his sister. Kirino is being kind, understanding, and she even made him breakfast. Later, Kirino asks Kyousuke to buy a game released that day. He accepts and goes to buy the game. Once in the store, Kyousuke realizes that his sister isn't the only one who likes those games, but there are also a lot of other fans who want to buy those things. When Kyousuke manages to buy the game, he returns home and sneaks in, so his father doesn't realize what he's doing. Kyousuke gives the game to his sister and goes to sleep, but Kirino tells him to stay and play with her. After playing, Kirino shows her brother something she never showed him before, out of embarrassment. It was a diary where she had a ticket to go to America. Kyousuke, despite feeling mad that she didn't tell him earlier, still told her to go, and that he wasn't going to stop her. Kirino hits him several times in response as she wants to hear her brother tell her not to go, and that he needs her. They both clear things up, and in the morning, Kirino finally decides not to go to America, much to the relief of her whole family. The 13th chapter of the series is the beginning of the alternate ending. During this episode, we see everything that happens in the 12th. However, the end is different, giving way to an alternate final story of the anime. When Kirino shows Kasuga what she was so embarrassed about, these were just medals for the competition she had won. After this revelation, Kyousuke goes to sleep. In the morning, when Kyousuke wakes up, he finds out that Kirino has gone to the United States. Although he felt sad, Kyousuke was glad for his sister's decision. After a few days, Kyousuke continued with his life, even learning that Ruri had enrolled in the same school. Even though Kirino was gone, Saori and Ruri kept going to Kyousuke's house to spend time with him, so that he wouldn't feel so alone without his sister. Kyousuke was trying to pretend that he wasn't affected by his sister being gone, when the truth is that he was. Since Ruri was very introverted, Kyousuke wanted to help her make friends at her new school. However, Ruri was so upset by Kasuga's concern because she believed he saw her as the sister's replacement. Of course, Kyousuke clarifies his intentions and tells her that he feels honestly concerned for her. After solving the misunderstanding, they decide to enter a club so Ruri could meet more people. They chose to join a video games creation group because Ruri is passionate about it. Ruri meets Sena Akagi, a girl who seems quite normal at first but turns out to be a huge otaku and yaoi fan. The club was voting to make a new game that would enter a contest, so Akagi and Ruri exposed their retrospective projects. Ruri's project looked quite promising, and with Kasuga's help, she did a convincing presentation of her game. In the end, Ruri's idea got picked because her explanation was so good, but also because Akagi made a perverted homosexual RPG game that no one wanted. And not satisfied with this, Akagi also chose the appearance of the characters based on his fellow club members. Due to the explicit themes of her game, everyone decided that it'll never come out, hurting Akagi's feelings, who didn't return to the club. Since Ruri had to do the job alone after Akagi left, the game had an immeasurable amount of bugs. Ruri didn't have enough time to fix the game and submit it to the contest, so she went looking for Akagi to get the game in on time. Once both managed to become friends, they got down to work to win the contest. Once the game was ready, Ruri and Akagi didn't receive the expected reviews as many people didn't like the plot. Both girls were discouraged, but Kousaka lifted their spirits by reminding them about their passion. After feeling inspired, Ruri decides to create another game. As Kyousuke was on his way home, he receives a message from Kirino, who told him to throw away her entire collection of figurines and manga. Kyousuke worries about his sister and decides to call her even though she doesn't answer. Kyousuke meets with Ruri, worried about Kirino, and tells her the whole situation. After the two have a long and emotional talk, Kyousuke decides to go to America to bring his sister back home. Kyousuke sets off on his journey and finally meets his sister. They both talk about why Kirino left for the United States and why she hadn't communicated until now. After talking about everything, Kyousuke tells her everything he feels for her and that he'll take her back to Japan no matter what. In the end, Kyousuke manages to convince his sister, and they go back to Japan, where Saori and Ruri are waiting for them. And that was OreImo Season 1 recap. If you enjoyed this recap, remember to hit that sub, click the like button, and comment down below to let me know what you think of the series. I'll see you on the next video.